Hello and welcome to the course. In this lesson, we will touch upon most of the areas that you would need for the report and the supporting appendices. So let's have a look. Once you have made your mind to write the thesis, the first thing you need to consider is picking the right topic. I've put the word relevant here is because I've seen most candidates that pick those topics which are most relevant to their studies and their profession, but there is no such obligation. You have a list and you have a variety of topics to choose from the OBU information pack, and you are free to choose from there. Mentors are not allowed to dictate which topic you should choose. It should be purely your choice. Because I'm an accountant and I have a keen interest in that area, so I have picked only those examples in this course which are relevant to accounting related topics. So likewise for you, you have to look at what's most interesting and what's relatable to your areas of expertise. It doesn't matter whether you are working in that profession or not. It's just a added advantage. And the third point is ease of access to information. So when I say ease, I refer to how easily you are able to attain the information needed for your research. It could be that you find a very interesting topic, but uh, you might struggle getting information. It could be, you might not find enough publicly available information. I'm referring to secondary information. Then in that case, you might be dependent on the first-hand primary information, and that depends on the moods of the management, on their data policies. And nowadays, companies have very strict and rigorous data policies. So I don't see it as an impossibility, but I see it somewhat difficult in terms of getting the first-hand information unless you're very, very close to the management and you've gone through the chain of approvals. And once you have picked the topic, while you're picking the topic, note down your thought process. That's very important. Like we have discussed a few things like, interests and areas of expertise and ease of access to information and things like that. But it's very important that you start keeping the log of your thoughts. So this is the very foundation of your project. This is the point where you start writing down things. So you have to maintain a log, maintain a diary, a spreadsheet, or anything like where you just scribble, where you just write down your thought process, because that's going to help you when you put together the research report, which we will discuss in the next lessons. So once you have selected a topic, the foremost important step is to select a company and find a suitable competitor. So you have to keep a log of your thought process. In the past, OBU used to give specific industries, as choices where you have to do your research thesis. But until recently, they've changed and they've allowed you to choose any industry as long as it's relevant to the topic. So when you choose a company, you also have to look for the right competitor so you can compare the performances. So you must have noticed that I am quite biased on the accounting related topics, so which is true that I am an accountant and I prefer talking about that, but it doesn't mean that it's a recommendation for you. You choose whatever is suitable for you. More or less the structure is same. It's just different techniques apply when you're doing your thesis. So it's just a matter of making the structure. So when you're doing a thesis, you're basically linking the theoretical concepts that you've studied with the reality, and you are some kind of developing a hypothesis, like you have some research questions in mind and you are finding answers for those. So it can be over any kind of a topic within the OBU's given set of choices. So I would like to emphasize that when you select the company and you select the competitor, make sure to document your thought process. Keep a log of things. Note it down somewhere because this information will go in your research report. So it's better to write it at the start than trying to figure out why you had done that. It takes a lot of time. So just save your time. You can keep a log in Excel, in a Word file, in a diary, a stick note, whatever that's in your reach. Now let's talk about understanding the key elements of the topic. So when I say key elements, I'm basically pointing at the self-explanatory requirements when you see the topic titles in the Oxford Brookes information pack. So you'll notice that they are given in 3 to 4 lines for each topic. So that kind of makes it self-explanatory in a sense that they have clearly written down what they require from you with respect to that topic. So whichever topic you choose, make sure that the models for accounting and business that you apply there, they should be relevant to that topic. And anything irrelevant, try not to use that because you might end up losing scores. So you have to keep the relevance of your research and you have to keep the focus on the topic. And another thing to note is as you perform your business analysis and the accounting, financial analysis, you might come across some coherence. Like for example, if you see the inflation is increasing, let's say if you analyze the economy as part of your pestle, you see the inflation is increasing. So that might impact the costs in the company, which might take you to the financial analysis where you must have noticed that the GP margins might have reduced because of the rising costs, because of the inflation. So you see there is a connection. And sometimes the things that you see in the strategic analysis might be different from what you see in the financial analysis. But that doesn't mean that the model is not applicable. It could perhaps mean that there is a delay between the cause and effect. Maybe the economic information that you're seeing now has an effect in a later period. So that's why it's not reflected in that time interval that you were analyzing. So the relevance shouldn't be linked with coherence. The financial analysis and the strategic analysis might say totally different things, but it comes down to you how you bridge the gap, how you reconcile between the differences and investigate and write down the reason, just like we've given a hypothetical example of a time lag between cause and effect and things like that. So the best way to tackle with jotting down your models and looking for coherence and differences, the best way to do that is to keep a note of information that you come across while browsing, while reading, etc. So as you list it down, as you list the bits and pieces of information down, you'll be able to see which parts of it you can apply to the certain financial or strategic model. So whether that bit of information goes to, let's say, explaining something under the financial analysis, or does it go to explaining something under the strategic or business analysis. So having a list of that would save a lot of time for you. So it's important to set things right at the start. And not only that, If you have a list of if you have a list of information that you have gathered, later on it will be very easy to map and categorize that information under specific models. Like if you have got information on the interest rates, for example, you can classify it as uh, information used for economic analysis. Or if you have gone through a news relating to your subject company, uh, let's make an example here. Assume that there was a fire in the warehouse or something, and that must have cost a lot of uh, expenses. That must have caused a lot of damage to the inventory and things like that. Then you can save it in the category of financial analysis, and you can also map that information by saying that uh, this could be due to lack of safety measures, which can be looked upon as a weakness when it comes to SWOT analysis. So this information that you put down in the list can be used for various purposes. And there comes a time when you have got a lot of information, and then you have to look at the most important ones, and then shortlist those most important ones and then use them in your analysis, because we can't go after every cuff and every hiccup. We have to look for the most important, most moving information. But that shouldn't limit you from doing your searches. When you're doing a search, keep your mind open, and keep a note of whatever you are going through. Now let's demonstrate how you would keep a search log. Just open any Excel file and just write serial number 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sure there will be plenty of places you have searched. And over here, just briefly write the content. And over here, paste the URL. So let's demonstrate using, let's say, you want to find some information on the US GDP data 2023. Now you see I have a nice chart over here, and it's coming from statista.com. So I'm going to take a copy of this URL, and I'm going to paste it here. And on the side, I'm going to say US GDP forecast. So you see, this way you can record your searches and keep a track in one place. Later on, let's say if you want to change something or you want to revisit some information, you can always just click on this and get back there, have a look at the source of information, and make the necessary change. And most importantly, I'm going to share a golden point here. As you keep log of your searches, it's basically an evidence that you've been there, that you have looked at these places. So it is your research. Let's say if your project gets picked up, I mean, I won't wish for any situation like that, because it gets really hectic. If you come under suspicion of plagiarism or something like that, doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something wrong, but it might give an impression that you didn't do your own research. In that case, if you have a log of research, you can use this as evidence. So always keep a log of your searches. That's what I recommend. To track down your searches in a spreadsheet, how to track down your time, your plan for the whole project. Now I would like to touch upon the most important thing, and that relates to what you learn. So make sure you keep note of any new information or knowledge or skill that you acquire while doing your report. because this has to go in your skills and learning statement. And if you keep a habit of noting down every new thing that you learn, it will help you make a very strong skills and learning statement. And in terms of learning, it doesn't have to be something really big. It can be, you know, anything as small as a shortcut in Excel or Word or anything. Just keep a note of whatever you're learning. And trust me, over the time, when you reach the completion and you're at that phase of writing the skills and learning statement, you will see the power of that. The most important part for any project management exercise is to have a time plan. So in this exercise, we'll make a simple time plan where we will start by looking at the deadline and working backwards on the plan, adding in all the major steps that need to go in our report. So assume this is period 47 and the window for submission is 1st of November 2023, and assume today is equal to today, bracket close, 21st of June 2023. Now let me add a brush here. Okay, this is what I like about Excel. It's easy to copy formats. Just right click, get the brush, and just put it on this cell, and it got it in the same short date format. Anyhow, let's get back to the time plan. So what I need you to do is think of all the steps that need to go into your report. So we'll start from deciding the topic. So you have to allow yourself some time to decide a topic. So in the previous lessons we have discussed, there are several factors to consider, like your interests, or maybe some experience you have in that, anything that, or maybe if it's a new challenge that you're opting for, can be anything. Because I'm an accountant, I would have a bias on accounting, and I might go for topic 4, 5, topic 8, but it's not a recommendation. You are free to choose your topic. So decide the topic, decide the company and the competitor. Then you have to decide the time for conducting your research. So this is where your research starts. So this includes searching and recording information. So in this process, you'll be downloading the financial statements of the companies. You'll be looking over for economic data, for the industry data, for various statistics, and compile it in a list, like save the URLs in one place, so that in the future, if you want to revisit that link, you should be able to do that. It's very easy to lose track of things in a distracted world of today. So it's better to keep a note of everything that you are searching. And imagine if you had searched something 2 months ago and you had to go back and look for it. So you might have to drill down through your web browser searches, etc., etc. And imagine if you forget the name for what you were looking for, then even adds more to the trouble. So it's better to have a list of your searches specific to the project, documented somewhere. I would keep a log. So this is a step that you will be taking out throughout the project, not just at the planning stage, but also while you are drafting the project, and also while you are concluding the project. So let's go back. Let's go to the next step. What other things can we add? Drafting, part one of the report. So when I say the report, I'm referring to the research and analysis project report that we write in a Word format. So the first part includes things like why you chose the company, why you chose a certain topic, and what are the research questions, and things like that. So we will discuss the structure in detail in the other lesson. So there goes the drafting part. Then the phase after that is drafting part two of the report. Now you see, at this time, you're not very much engaged with the numbers, with the financial statements and facts and figures and things like that. It's very academic, I should say. In part two, you'll be giving definitions of, the models that you have thought of using, like PESTEL, explain what is PESTEL, what are the advantages, disadvantages, and of course with references. And similarly, discussing which accounting models have you used, ratio analysis or horizontal analysis, vertical analysis, uh, used common size financial statements, things like that. There are a lot of things you can do in financial analysis. So you have to put it there in the part two. We will discuss that as well in detail in the other lessons. Let's move on to the next step, which is drafting part three. Now hold on a second. You can't just walk in there and draft it. You need to deal with a couple of steps before that. So my favorite part is downloading the I shouldn't be giving time for downloading, I should say. Copying the financial statement numbers. I'll just write short form numbers in your Excel. Now this Excel has to be in a very neat format because this counts as your skills, your Excel skills. The examiner is looking for where you are using the right formats and the calculations and things like that. We will talk you through. So yeah, you can imagine from here that I am loosely referring to accounting related topics. But imagine if it was a non-accounting related topic, like something on the controls or systems or things like that. There are several items in the Oxford Brookes University pack, in the information pack. So you are free to choose from there. But if you are looking at those topic areas which are very relevant to accounting, then I would say getting the financial information would be the first step here. So when you copy the financial statements, you have a choice. You can hard code the numbers, punch them, and then add totals wherever they're needed. Or if you can run some query, some fetching data from the internet, things like that. If you're advanced a user of the Excel, then maybe it might cost you maybe a couple of minutes to do all of that. But it doesn't matter. Either ways, it's acceptable. Then we need to calculate the ratios, conduct analysis, and make charts. So yeah, that all goes together when you are analyzing the numbers. So you see, at first phase, you have copied all the numbers. The second phase, you are looking at the variances, the differences, calculating the ratios, etc., and taking the graphs. Now, let's move on. The step after that would be conducting a strategic analysis, or you can say a business analysis, using a business model, using at least two models. So they can be SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunities, or threats. Or it could be pastel, political, economics, social, technological, environmental, and legal. So you have to discuss, what has brought about the changes to the company from its external environment, considering the, all the elements of pastel, political, economic, social, technological, uh, environmental, yeah, legal, things like that. And when it comes to when it comes to SWOT analysis, you are looking at the strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So strengths and weakness are internal to the company. So you have to keep an eye on anything which is any event which has occurred from within the company. So that's internal. Or let's say if you see the balance sheet doesn't have enough debt, it's like kind of a debt-free balance sheet, then that itself is a strength. Being debt-free, like in a high interest rate environment like we have nowadays, it's a strength to have less debt on your balance sheet. It can be anything, can be many things. So yeah, so you have to give time to your business analysis, and then conclusion part. So you have to conclude your RAP, your research and analysis project, the thing you have drafted in the Word, part one, part two, part three, and then you have to leave some space for conclusions. And then now is the time. At this stage, you will be writing really nice conclusions about all the analysis that you've conducted and all the answers you've found out to your research questions. Now, having a strong conclusion is very important. That decides between a pass and a fail. Think of it this way, like if you are doing a thorough analysis and it's not taking you anywhere, it's not leading you anywhere, not giving you any direction, then it's kind of not served the purpose of doing the research. So basically, having a strong conclusion implies that you have actually done some thorough research. Otherwise, it's very difficult to conclude if you've not done a proper research. So yeah, so we give time to conclusion, and then we give time to the PowerPoint slides. Can be anything, can be Google. Uh, there are slides on Google, and you can use any tool. So most common is PowerPoint. So I'll just write slide presentation. And now you must be thinking, where is the mentor in all of this? Of course, I'm not your mentor. Mentor is different from the teacher. So I'm your teacher here. So I'm not supposed to mentor you. Mentor would be someone independent of this. So when you reach out to the mentor, that should be somewhere when you have actually drafted the report, or at the point where you are, let's say, drafting part two of the report, because a lot of questions will erupt in your mind, and you would want to speak to someone, uh, presumably the mentor, to guide you, to basically help you help yourself. And then the second meeting, I'll just mark it as one, so that might be your first meeting with the mentor. The second meeting is very close to when you are concluding your work, and I'll mark it as 2. So this would be your second meeting. And the third meeting would be after you've done your presentation slides. So this is 3. Are we missing something? Yes. So we are missing the skills and learning statement, or the SLS. Let's write full form here. So this includes the summary of all the things that you have learned, the challenges that you have got through, the things you have accomplished, etc., etc., wrapped up nicely in 2,000 words limit, and you have to submit that along with your work to the mentor and present and give a presentation to the mentor in your third meeting. And remember, Oxford Brookes University allows only 3 meetings. So try to keep it within 3 meetings. Going beyond 3 meetings doesn't give a good impression. Unless something seriously wrong happened, then I think you have to go through a chain of approvals. I would not want to go there. I've been mentoring since 2014, and I've always avoided a situation where I would have to go for more than 3. mentoring sessions, I would just simply say no, because we have ethics, we have rules, and I try to stick to the most conservative side. So in any case, now we have listed down the important tasks. You see, in project management, you have time, you have task, and you have people. But in your case, it's you and your mentor. And remember, mentor has nothing to do with your report. This is entirely your work. Mentor is just there to guide you, to help you help yourself. And the mentor would ask you questions. And when you think about answering those questions, that eventually leads you to helping you. So this is the kind of relationship you have with mentor. Mentor is not a tutor. Okay, now let's give a time. Let's say you start today, which is 21st of June. So yeah, the best time to start anything is now. So just put 21st. So it shouldn't take you more than 1 day to decide a topic. So just keep it within 1 day. Let's push these numbers somewhere on the side so it doesn't disturb our day count. And in this column, and please don't mind the simplicity of this time plan. I'm sure you can do a better one. I'm just trying to articulate, just adding some thoughts, how we can effectively plan a project. But of course, this is very simple. This is an ideal world scenario, but in reality, you might have to add some contingencies. So we'll come to that. So this is a 1 day task. Oops. I'll just add one, so we know that it's a 1 day task. I mean, you can accomplish this within a few minutes if you are confident about your topic, but it's good to have a thought at the start, then going all the way down to these steps and then thinking about it. Oh, I should have decided a better topic. Then time is very precious. So decide the company and the competitor. Yeah, you can't just snap and decide the company, because you have to do some research about it. You have to look at the market share, look at there are different data out there, statista.com, etc. Just look at which company, let's talk about automobiles. In automobiles, you have BMW, you have Audi, you have Toyota, so many cars there. Now let's say if you want to choose a competitor for BMW, you can pick many. Out of many, you can pick a name, but you have to look for things which can be compared easily. So if I would choose, I would choose Audi as a competitor, because both are European car manufacturers, have a similar perception with the customers that it's a luxury car and quite popular with the youngsters, and like I can give a lot of opinions on that. So you see, these kind of things, these thought processes, these opinions, you have to note it down somewhere, because that goes in your part one. So okay, so deciding the company, let's give it another 1 day, but I'm being generous with the time. So let's say by 21st, you decide the company, the topic. 22nd, you decide the company name and the competitor. And obviously, you'll get to know what industry that is with a couple of searches. And then you have to start searching around. So like, search about the overall economic climate, search about how the automobile sector has performed, search about the key players in the industry, who's the market leader, things like that. I'm giving you some really valuable points that we're going to discuss in the next lesson, so I think I should just focus on writing the timetable. So okay, so give yourself some time. So let's say a generous amount of 5 days. So this is like where you are doing the preliminary search, just as we are um, you know just as we have discussed in the lesson. Next to this one is about planning. The next lesson you will find out what I'm trying to say, like we are following a top down approach, and these kind of searching will help you with the top down approach. So I'll keep the suspense for the next lesson. Drafting part one. Okay, this is a very clerical work, so give yourself some 5 days for this, because it's conceptual, it's theoretical. You're writing the reasons for choosing the company, and all the stuff that we just discussed a while ago. So it shouldn't take you more time, but let's give you some generous amount of time. So let's see. So drafting part 2 of the report should be right after that. And by the way, this drafting job, if you ask me from my experience, it doesn't end till you have reached the conclusion or even till submission. So keep your mind open to it. There will be a lot of revisits when you start this project. So it's normal. Don't worry about it. So the same amount of time for part 2, and then copying the financial statements. Well, that's another grunt work, very clerical work. If you are, literally typing in the numbers from the financial statements, give yourself like 3 to 4 days. Okay, let's put 4 days, because you have to write in the numbers for the company as well as its competitor. So I think 4 days would not do justice. So let's keep it to 6 days. Oh, I should add a 1 here, not a 6. Okay, so once you have put the numbers in, now comes the very interesting and fun part. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean when I say 17th of July that you should be doing it by 17th of July. If you manage to do it within 1 day, bonus for you. I mean, you can start off with the next step. I'm just giving a lot of caution. So, there can be a lot of contingencies, like, you get sick, or, your car breaks down, or not in a mood to work, or can be anything, any reason. So let's have some flexibility in the plan, so nobody gets stressed and burned out. So analysis part might take you, from my experience, might take you like 4 days. I mean, you can do it in 1 day, but yeah, giving it 4 days is enough, because you've already put the numbers there and you have to link those numbers. It's spreadsheet, so you just have to link the formulas and things like that, and have a quality review, check it. That's it. I'm just being very generous with the time here. After you've done the ratio, you'll get to see, you can plot charts in Excel. I will show you how to do that. And when you see the charts, you'll get to see the trends. And when you see when you analyze the numbers, you will look at the big movers, the big changes, and likewise you can set the direction of your search. I mean, we can't chase after every small change. We have to look for some really big moves, because think about it. If you're asked the top 5 major events that have happened in the financial statements, or or top 5 major noticeable things in the financial statements, what would they be? Always ask yourself this question. Limit it to top 5, so your mind will process, and you will automatically, you will be compelled to give out the best quality answer on that. Conducting a business analysis, oh, that is a lengthy task, I should say, I should admit. So let's give yourself 10 days for that. Oh, sorry, not 10 days after this. I keep on doing this mistake. Yeah, 10 days after that. And conclusion part, because you have to revisit all of this, so give yourself like 5 days. And if you start today, you should be done by 8th of August. But that's not all of your project. Let's look at the other steps. Slide presentations. Doing a slide in PowerPoint might take you 1 or 2 days. So let's give yourself a healthy 2 days. Yeah, I keep repeating the same mistake. I think I should keep a hammer besides my hand. Okay, skills and learning statement. Skills and learning statement. Now, after spending this much time on it, you should be able to recall, and obviously I emphasize everywhere to keep a log of the things you learn, keep a log, keep notes. So that will eventually help you put down things in your skills and learning statement. It's a intense learning process that you will go through. So it's important to take note so that you can demonstrate to the examiner that there are certain skills that you have actually acquired, and how did you acquire. So you have to write down that, in a simplest way as possible, because you have a 2000 word count. Let's move on. Skills and learning statement. Give yourself like 5 days. And there we go. We are at 17th of August. Why did I say drafting part 3 here? Yeah, this one belongs up there. Now I don't have to redo the whole video again, but I think no, I don't have to redo the whole video again. So we will just correct the timetable. Drafting part 3 can take you like 10 days, to be honest. It's a lengthy process because you're putting together your pestle SWOT, your business analysis, your financial analysis, linking stories, numbers behind the stories behind the numbers, interpreting the charts, summarizing things in the tables, and then also looking for the best conclusions for all the analysis that you have done. So yeah, you have to give yourself like 10 days for this. So let's see how much time you've got here. Now you see, if you start by 21st of June, roughly, it's like a 40-day, it's like a 2 months process. Exactly the amount of time I had to spend when I was a candidate back in 2014. So I've been mentoring right after that, and I am following a similar pattern. I'm seeing a similar pattern that it usually takes this amount of time. Anything less than that is a very rushed situation. It means like you have to take leaves from work and um, drink coffee at night and Red Bulls and dodge your friends. I hope that won't be the situation if you start early. So anyways, let's not talk about that. We have a timetable to make. So yeah, that's what I like about Excel. Just keep copying the formula. So it's taken us to 28th of August with a generous amount of time given, with a lot of contingencies. So this is the ugliest plan that you could have ever imagined in terms of the format. I'll keep a neat one for you in the attachments. So let's summarize what we just discussed while drafting a sketchy plan before. So it may take up to 2 months or more doing this project. So by the time you start, you should be mindful that it can take this much time. And don't go by counting hours. This is a tip from me. Go by counting the milestones. So you must have noticed that in the scene before, we listed down all the tasks. So those tasks are basically milestones. So if you allot sufficient time to each of those milestones, that makes up an effective project management. And another thing I'd like to highlight here is some tasks, in fact most of the tasks, are time bound, but there are some tasks which are not very time bound, although we have tried to bound them in time. For example, when we talk about research, when we talk about looking, searching on the internet, reading books and things like that, it doesn't just stop with the conclusion. You might have to go back and update a few things here and there. So it's like a continuous improvement approach. So don't worry about it if you still find yourself searching while you are almost near the end of drafting your project. It shouldn't matter. It's very normal. And let's talk about the strategy. Like if you want to search, there are a lot of resources on the Google. You can look at Wikipedia, but be careful. Don't refer to Google or Wikipedia as a source. Instead, go to the source that Wikipedia or Google is pointing at. So basically open that book which is on Google Books, or open that link that you've got on your Google search, wherever it leads to. What's the source of the information? So you have to refer the source of the information. We'll discuss that in detail in the next lessons. So setting the direction for your research. So if you have a mind frame, like if you think of using a top-down approach or any other approach. My favorite is top-down approach, so that's why I put that in the lesson. Whichever approach works for you, in which you think that you can gather the information, you can assimilate, you can, analyze and get to some really awesome conclusions with that approach. Whichever approach that avoids repetitions and, going back and correcting the past and things like that, I would say go for that solution. So not a recommendation, but my favorite way of doing things is the top-down approach, especially when it comes to making research projects, or making or doing equity research, or anything like it's just having a mental a mind map that you follow. That's all. Just have a discipline. So can't emphasize more. Just have a discipline and stick to it. And very last point here is mentor is not your teacher. Always remember that.
Now let's have a recap of the learning objectives in this lesson. So we've discussed the criteria for selecting a most suitable topic for our research. Then we discussed in a hierarchy how to choose a perfect subject company and an ideal candidate as a competitor. So this was done by looking at the industry and the traits of the company, because we have to compare apples with apples, likes with likes. We have to make sure that there are some common grounds to lay out our comparison. Otherwise, it makes comparison a bit tedious. Then we discussed a time plan, and this is a crucial part of project management, that we keep track of our time and accordingly lay out the strategy for tackling this thesis. And last but not the least, we emphasized on keeping a log of your searches and keeping a log of any new information or knowledge that you acquire in the process. Now let's head on to the next lesson, where we discuss an interesting approach towards tackling our thesis.